And now, please, a warm welcome for anime voice actor David Matranga. A bit more. He hasn't sat down yet.
How's it going, everybody? Oh, this mic works great.
There you go. I told you.
Yes.
Well, welcome. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you. I like this chair as well.
Thanks.
Yes.
So, want to say a few things, get the questions. This is your time on stage, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I usually, I love getting to questions. First off, I have to say, I love Q&A panels of all kinds. I really like to talk to people about, the different shows and what they think about them, how they impact them. It really, that kind of feedback means a lot, because my job is very solitary. I'm in a recording booth with people talking to me in my headphones. So it's good to talk to you guys. Yeah, I can do a brief intro if you want.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So yeah, my name is David Matranga. It's funny, when I first started coming to these, people would call me a voice actor, and I was always like, I never fully identified that way. I always thought of myself as an actor. I do a lot of professional theater still. I do the occasional episodic television show or some indie film, but I love voice acting. I got into it about 20 years ago. Just had an audition with my agent, and I landed a lead role in an anime and kind of learned, I talk to people a lot about, getting into voiceover and voice acting. And I always say, one of the best things you can do is train as an actor, because my situation was I had done some commercial voiceover, but I hadn't done really any animation or video games or anything like that. And I was able to do that because I felt strong. I had a strong foundation as an actor. And then when I got into the booth, I kind of learned what it meant to voice act in anime, kind of right there on the job. So that was 20 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. Started getting into more video game stuff now, and I still make it back to the theater every once in a while. And yeah, that's kind of that's a brief enough intro. I can talk, so you're gonna have to cut me off.
All right, want to open up some questions? If you have a question, raise your hand right over here. Let's get started.
Hi. My question is the season 3 of Attack on Titan, that finale with Bertolt and Armin.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to that whole
Is that
scene?
the one on the rooftops?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Without giving, too many spoilers away, I mean, it's one of the most intense scenes to voice because of everything that's happening and what ends up happening. And, there's all kinds of complicated emotions in there of trying to save yourself, but also there's anger, there's resentment, there's the need for forgiveness, all that stuff going on. So yeah, that's some of my favorite stuff to do as an actor, because there's so much there to work on. So yeah, I mean, it was amazing to work on. I love the scene also when I think it's in season 2 maybe, when they're riding on the Titan's shoulder and they've captured Bertolt. That's some of my favorite stuff. Like I said, just because there's so much to work with as an actor there, Yeah, but that scene that you asked about, it was intense. I mean, that's the only way to say it. It's we would do a take, and then we'd come back and, Mike McFarlane, the dub director, would say, all right, let's go a little bit more just kind of even crazier in the voice, or even more pleading or angry or whatever. And, we would just keep going until we got it right. But yeah, intense. Yeah, great question.
Got another one for you right here.
Hello.
Hi.
I just had a question about how do you get into your characters? What is your process?
So, it depends for every character. Sometimes you don't have much time. It depends. For I'll just speak specifically to voice acting. You know, getting into character and researching a character for theater or for film can be different than, oh God, someone's calling me, for voice acting. Voice acting, many times you have to make choices really quickly, right on the spot. You know, I used to do a panel about how to create a character in the booth in 5 minutes. And because sometimes you're called upon, here's the character, here's what he looks like. And so you have to kind of use all that information. What are his eyebrows like? What are his eyes like? What is his brow like? What is his mouth like? What does the Japanese voice actor sound like? You know, how does he move? So, and then you kind of create a voice from that space. But when you're living with a character for longer, now when I get cast in something, I will go and I'll try to watch the show if I can, if it's out already, or I'll read a Wikipedia, or I'll do as much research as I can just to kind of get an idea. And then I kind of let it go after that, and when I get into the booth, I do all those things that I said. I look at things, I listen, we watch the scene first. Sometimes I'll say, can I watch it again? And then I'll come up with something, and then you really sort of collaborate with the director as to how to create a voice. But then when you're living with a character for as long, like with Todoroki, that, you know, it's 5 seasons now, that doesn't always happen, especially in anime, you know. Many times we get 2 seasons at most. So you really get to learn like what that character feels and thinks, and it's very easy now, right when I jump into the booth, to just lock right back into Todoroki. But it wasn't always that way. Todoroki was a challenging voice to find because he's not as like excitable as I am in real life. He doesn't talk as fast. He's a lot more, you know, he's flatter, he's internal, but you can't make him be monotone. He still has to have, especially, he's had so much trauma, he's had all this stuff. You gotta have all that stuff underneath, even though he keeps it pretty close to the vest, you know? And that's a challenge. Sometimes I would come in and the director would say, all right, let's do a take, and Colleen, who plays Yo-Yo Momo Yaoyorozu, Yo-Yo Mamoruzu. Kind of like that name too. That's her other sister. You know, she would say like, all right, well, that first take, that was a little too excitable. Let's bring it down a notch. And then I would do it the next take, and she'd say, all right, that sounds like he has no heartbeat and is about to die. And I would find the middle ground, and then I would lock in. So anyway, longer answer than you probably wanted, but here we are.
All right, got another one right here.
Yeah.
Hi, who's your favorite anime character that you've done?
You know, that's such a hard question for me because all of them are my favorites while I'm doing them. Because, you know, you have to really invest in the character, and you have to invest in what they think and feel, and what are they doing, and what do they want. So it ends up being hard to say. There are some one-off characters that I love, and then there are some, like Todoroki is one of them. I mean, you know, it sounds cliche because he's, you know, in a popular show right now, but there's just so much to work with there. As an actor, there's so much going on, and so it's so much fun to be a part of voicing him. I feel a lot of responsibility to his story, and so I know when I feel that way that it's definitely a favorite. But then I've got characters like, I did a show called Copcraft, which no one knows about. Yeah, you know about it, yes. But it's a character called Kei Mataba, and he's this kind of jaded cop, and I love that guy. I don't know why. He's like kind of mad all the time and a little angry, but he has like kind of a good heart, you know? But you only see the good heart like every once in a while. And I love that guy. So I always talk about Copcraft whenever I can because no one's ever heard of it. But anyway, yeah, that's all I got on that.
All right, another question here.
What was your favorite episode or scene to act in as Todoroki?
Oh man, that's a great question. There's not just one, but there's a couple that come to mind. You know, the whole origin episode where we get kind of his backstory was really impactful for me. The sports festival, the fight with Midoriya, that's a great scene to get to work on. Some of the Stain fight in Hosu City, I think that's season 2 still. Maybe it's 3? I think it's 2. I love the Stain fight. I love Stain. Anyway, not that you asked about my favorite villain, but so those are the ones that come to mind. Although I have to say, I don't know if you guys are caught up on season 5, but some of the scenes in season 5 so far with good old Dad are some of my favorite. Like, he's really starting to, tell it like it is, say some real stuff, and I love that. Like, I don't want to, no spoilers, but the scene with when they first try to have dinner, and he says that line to his dad, I was like, I saw the subbed version. I'll tell you when I know it's a favorite scene. I'll watch the sub, and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't wait to voice this scene. And that's when I know I'm excited about a scene, so, yeah.
All right, we're over here. We got a change up. Instead of a young girl, we've got a young man.
All
with a
right.
question for you.
When you're talking to like normal people, do your characters sometimes come out when you're talking?
Well, not like, not consciously. Like, I don't know it if they do, but all the characters they're close to your voice in different ways. Like I did Usui and Maid Sama, and that character is just my voice. So it's funny, people will come up to the table and say, hey, can you do the voice of Usui? And I'm like, you're listening to it. This is it, sorry. But, things change when you're in front of a microphone. We work with expensive microphones that pick up every little mouth noise and everything that you're doing. If you rub your shirt the wrong way, that's going to be in your read. If you're wearing crinkly clothing, you have to go home and change. Like, so the mic sort of changes your performance. So I always feel conflicted when people ask me to do a voice without the microphone, because it really is. It needs that amped up thing. And it doesn't matter what, even like someone who speaks like Todoroki or someone who's screaming all the time. I just did a character in a show called SSSS.Dynazenon, and this guy screams like Bakugo the whole time. And so, so they don't consciously come out, but they're there. They're always underneath the surface.
So as far as the voice actually doing it, a lot of times do you see the scene while you're doing it, or is it just kind of like something you read and then they interpret it later how it fits in?
Right. So that's more the thing. The last thing you said is more like it's called prelay, Western animation. When something hasn't been animated, you go in and you do your performance. Like the best example is Aladdin. Robin Williams in Aladdin, right? I mean, they put a microphone on him and they let him go. Do whatever you want, man. And then they animated the genie to him later. With anime, it's already been animated, so we always see it. You always see it. You're watching. I have 2 screens in my booth. One has the script. One has the animation. And you watch the animation first. You watch the scene. And then you're constant. It's very technical in many ways. You're constantly looking back and forth at the script and then the engineer will massage it. They can do things like stretch it a little bit or squeeze it a little bit to help it fit the lip flaps. But many times you get a great read, and then the director will say, God, that was amazing. I loved that. Can you just do exactly that, but just a little bit slower? Can you say that faster without it sounding too fast? So you really have to remember, okay, what was that read that you liked so much? I think I remember. But you're always watching it.
About how many hours a day can you do this before you start feeling burnt out?
Oh man, I used to do like 6-8 hour days sometimes. Now we don't do that as much, mainly because the way that anime is delivered has changed, streaming. But usually like a 4 to 5 hour mark is where you want to, that's tops. You start to get burned out. after that. Just brain-wise and voice-wise. Yeah.
All right. We got another question for you right here.
Yes.
If someone wanted to go into the voice acting field and work with Funimation like what you do, what would you recommend they do to get started?
So the best thing to do is, and I don't know, you may already be doing this, but is to just take an acting class. Figure out what it feels like to act, just in general. Take a scene study class, take a monologue class, take an improv class, just something where you get used to performing. Because people think that voiceover is, I can just go into a booth, but it's a lot of pressure. It's because there's a time frame, and you have to deliver the goods in that hour or in that time frame. So that's always my first piece of advice is learn what it is to act a little bit, and that's fine. Not everybody wants to do theater or do film. You don't have to study for 10 years, but just get an idea of what you're good at, from an acting perspective. The next step is to listen to different performances, voice performances. Do you fit in there? Where would you get cast? Are you like this person's voice? Are you like this person's voice? What if you were thinking about commercials? Like, would you sell? What would your voice be best for on a commercial? Would it be cereal? Would it be like Home Depot? Would it be Ford trucks? Like, they're all different, right? And then you make voiceover demos. And the voiceover industry is, we could do 2 hours just on the different parts of voice acting. There's like 8 different things you can get into, and they're all highly competitive and all very different. So after you've done that, you start to make some demos, and then you can get your demo out there to Funimation, to different studios in LA, whatever. But that's kind of that's the short of it. It's definitely a marathon and not a sprint, though, so, yeah.
All right. Got a question for you back here.
All right.
Okay, so this kind of branches off what she asked, but I'm kind of legally blind. I don't have my stick 'cause I'm here all the time. But is there a way I can present myself for voice acting, to walk in and be like, hey, I really want this job?
Yeah. So are you asking about how it would be different for you because of eyesight challenges, or?
Kinda, yeah, because I know if I walk in somewhere and I have my stick, they're like, oh, hey.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The thing is what you should do is make your voiceover demos. Demos usually consist of, people will make a commercial demo, animation demo, a video game demo. The only thing that I would say, if you were, after you got your demo in front of people, and if you got hired, then maybe there would be a way for a line to be read to you, or do you know what I mean? And then you can, and not read by anyone in particular, not acted for you, but just so you know what the line is, and then you can repeat the line, and then they can give you direction about, okay, we need you to say that again, but just a little bit slower or faster, or so yeah, that's a really great question. And I don't know if the voice acting world is actually equipped for that at this point. But that's a great thing to look into. I know that there's software and technology out there that could help with that. The thing that's challenging about that is many times there are, and if you watch anime, you'll see this, there are, the mouth is moving, and then there's a pause, and then the mouth moves again, and it's all on the same shot, right? So the way we do that is we have a 2-dot ellipses or a 3-dot ellipses. A 2-dot ellipses is a really quick little hitch. A 3-dot is kind of a pause, and then you talk again. So things like that, you'd have to figure out how to kind of get around. But the main thing would be to get yourself, some good materials first. Any business is about, here's what I want to do. Here are all my materials that kind of like a resume, like a demo, and then you put yourself out there. I'm sorry if can't better answer that question.
And I have a question on the other side of the room, right over here in front.
Hi. I was wondering, for Todoroki,
Yeah.
the way that the provisional license exam ended in season 3, were you like shocked by that? Did you think it was essential to his growth as a character? Like, how did you react to how that ended for Todoroki?
They didn't get it in 3, right? Or it wasn't until 4 that they...
Yeah, like Todoroki was one of the ones who failed.
Okay, yeah,
Bakugo.
you're talking about the failing.
Yeah.
And then 4 was we did the provisional stuff and we went and had to teach the kids and my name is not 5 weenies and all that. Right. Right. I love saying that line. When I first read that line, I was like, for real? This is what I say? I don't say this, do I? Someone's playing a joke on me. I say this? So that's a whole nother question. But, it was shocking, but... So you're asking how I felt about that? Yeah. You really get into the character when you're doing it. So like it was a little bit of an ego bruise. Like I was like, really? Like the guy who got in on recommendations and who everyone's talking about is just like, awesome, powerful guy, But at the same time, it needed to happen. Like I think about it from a character growth perspective, totally needed to happen. It needed to happen to Bakugo too, in my opinion. I think it's good storytelling that these guys who have these, they have different types of egos. Bakugo's is very loud and very right in your face. Todoroki's, he has a quiet confidence, but also some insecurity too, right? And so I think it had to happen for them to work hard like they do. And I love even in season 5, if you're caught up, like the Bakugo Todoroki sort of banter is some of my favorite. Like, there's just some episode that came out and he was like, I'm your friend. And Bakugo's like, no, you're not. So yeah, I think it was absolutely necessary for the character growth. I did feel like it took forever to get it though. Like after they lost it, I was like, come on, really? But yeah, no, that's a great question. That's a great question. That's the thing I love about My Hero though, is every character is human in that way. They're, even with their quirks, it costs them to use their quirks. There's no like Superman. There's no, it lives in this gray area, which I think makes it great storytelling.
Okay, another question right up front here.
Yeah.
Kind of a two-part question.
Sure.
So these complex character relationships, do they develop and continue off the screen? And then, because you mentioned Bakugo.
Yeah.
And then after that, if you answer that, how has the pandemic affected the way you work professionally?
Yeah, great. The cast of My Hero, I have like just the utmost respect for it. I think everybody is so good in their roles. I think that Colleen, who directs it and is in it, cast the show so well, like impeccably well. Everybody's so right for their roles. And yeah, we have a good time with it. I mean, the relationships that are on screen don't necessarily, leave the screen. Like, Cliff I've worked with Cliff who voices Bakugo. I've worked with him as a director. I've worked with him as an actor on other shows. I'm gonna be at a convention with him next weekend. We all have a great time together. Monica, who plays Suyu, we've done shows for 10, 15 years together. So yeah, and the whole cast, we have so much fun when we get to hang out together. We don't get to hang out that much because we, are so isolated doing our little thing. But yeah, we have so much fun on big panels when it's all of us, and so yeah. The pandemic has really changed everything. I always had a home studio where I would do my auditions from. I've had that for probably 10 years. But in April of last year, I knew I needed to pivot and outfit myself with a production quality, remote capable recording studio. So I did that. I have all the same microphones and interfaces and that they use at Funimation and at different recording studios in LA. And I've been recording everything from home. I have a booth that is acoustically treated. I've got, like I said, I've got a dedicated Mac Mini that runs my Pro Tools and runs my microphone, runs my interface. I've got 2 screens where I can put various different animation or scripts. So I go, I get a job and I go in there into my office and record. So that's completely different. Usually we would go into the studio. It was usually a mix-up of both before, and now it's been exclusively that. It'll probably go back to a mix at some point.
Do you find the time frame different though? Like you work better in the morning or in the evening, or sometimes you have insomnia, hey, I want to do this?
Yeah, you have to kind of be ready to do it at any time. Like I did a video game that was a UK-based company, and so that time difference, like, we just have to figure that out. When I'm doing something from LA, I'm based in Dallas. I used to be back and forth from LA. I've been mostly in Dallas this whole time. So, they want to book me from, 3 to 6 Pacific, California time. So that's 5 to 8 my time. So that feels 5 to 8 is like, I prefer like mornings. I prefer like 10 to 4, but it doesn't, you just do it, When I know I have like a 5 to 9 session or something, I'll just adjust my schedule a bit to, yeah.
I got a question.
Sure.
As a person who knows literally absolutely nothing about anime other than it comes from Japan.
Right.
So, seeing as how it's sourced from Japan and they're voicing it there in their language.
Right.
And you're voicing it for the American audience.
Right.
How well known are you in Japan, or do they even know who you are?
It really depends on the individual watcher, because there are a lot of people in this country who don't watch the dub version, who watch the subtitled version. They want to hear the original voice actor and that original interpretation. And so, it's a very, I don't think that I'm necessarily known in Japan. I've worked in Japan 4 times. I was out at a club one time in Tokyo, and someone did know who I was, but they were probably the only one. So I'm not sure how the crossover works that way. Anime and manga is one of the primary sources of entertainment in Japan. It's much like our Netflix and our Hulu. They grow up, at least from what I understand, reading and watching, and it becomes it really, all the genres kind of come together, and people have exposure to all of them. So yeah, it depends. There are some people, I think, even people who have watched anime in a subtitled version, who, when they find a show, they think, what, I like this, I want to hear this in English. But then they'll watch one show and say, I don't need to. I like these voice actors. I like the way it sounds. So it's an interesting kind of complicated relationship, even with the way that we do it. I always have respect for the original voice of that, because they created that character. They were cast by the original creator. And so I always take what I can from that voice actor and let that inspire me, feed me in some way, and then create the voice that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you met any of the other voice actors in Japan?
I've met the voice. I've met. I was at Anime Expo in Los Angeles, and it wasn't the voice of Todoroki. So the voice of Eren in Attack on Titan is also the voice of Todoroki in My Hero. So I've met a couple, but here and there. But it's very rare that we're at the same type of convention together. I've done mocap work in Japan, motion capture work with different studios there. So that's my biggest connection to Tokyo and Japan.
Have you ever done cast reads, like live in front of an audience?
We did that once for a convention. We did this convention put together a live dubbing thing where we all had scripts, and they had a screen in front of us and a screen behind so the audience could see, and we live dubbed an episode. And it's fun, but I don't know if everyone knows this, but when we record in studio, you get 3 beeps before your line, and that gives you the timing as to when that mouth is going to move and when you should speak. So I'm watching the show, I'm watching the scene, and then I'll hear beep, 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 and the last one is a higher pitch, and then you start talking. When I first learned how to voice act in anime, it was with a studio in Houston, and they didn't use the beep method. So you were always chasing. You would watch your character, you'd watch the line, and you were just chasing it. So for live dubbing for me, I was like, oh, this is old home week. I know how to do this, you know? But now I've gotten used to the beeps. I'm like, where are the beeps? I don't know. I can't talk without beeps. So yeah, there's all kinds of technical things that happen that are, I think, fascinating. I love talking about that stuff.
Got time for one or two more questions if you have any.
Got a question right over there.
Okay, right over here.
Who's your favorite pro hero in My Hero Academia?
Oh, gosh. Who's my favorite pro hero? I'm running through the favorite pro hero.
We had one more in the back. Right there.
Gran Torino. No, I'm just kidding. I don't. I always like to choose like the outer lying heroes, you know? Like, no, my favorite pro hero is Endeavor. I'm just kidding. I really don't have like a favorite. My favorite are all my classmates. I want us all to be pro heroes. Who else is a pro hero? I like Hawks. Yeah, I like Hawks a lot. He's pretty fierce. I love his sort of like swagger, his laid back kind of thing. Like he's got this great swagger. He's confident, but like a real guy at the same time. Yeah.
All right, we got the last question here, and if you didn't get a chance to ask a question, David's going to be going back to his table after the Q&A.
And your table is where?
It's right outside the door here to the right.
Excellent, excellent.
Right
So
around
make
the
sure and
corner.
hang out
Right
once
around
we're
the corner.
done. Last
So
question.
here's the last question.
So while preparing for Shoto Todoroki, I believe you voiced Tomoya Okazaki in Clannad.
I did, yeah.
With his hatred towards his father, did you take any inspiration from Tomoya and add it to Todoroki by chance?
You know, I didn't, because you have to really try and think of everything, you know, as its own separate thing. And I wanted to build something completely new, you know, all of that stuff. But I will say that I find it odd that the casting directors that cast me in voices love, for some reason, my voice says to them that I've got some type of broken childhood with anger towards fathers. I have so many characters that have traumatic backstories, and you know, like I don't mind it. I think that that's the real stuff of life. You know, like we all have some type of trauma, but I always think like, why do I always voice these characters that, you know, like have major stuff going on? I have some ideas as to why, but I think that my voice has a certain texture to it that people think like, well, it gives off this idea of well, what else is going on? You know, like this can't be just face value. There's got to be something else underneath that. So I think I sort of have that natural quality. But you know what? This goes back to asking about voice acting stuff. One of the things that's the hardest thing about voice acting is learning what your voice is. Because then you know how to market it, right? One time I was doing an industrial job. So industrial voiceover stuff is like a training video for a corporation or a product expert video where you talk about a product. So I was going in and I was talking about circuit breakers for a company, and the director said, "Hey, we were doing something, we finished a take or whatever, and he said, do you want to know why we cast you?" And I was like, yes. No one ever tells you why you got cast. Like maybe in anime but no one ever tells you. So you book the job and you're just happy to book it, but you don't know why you booked it. No one's like, so this is why. And they asked me and I was like, yes, please tell me. And he goes, so we think your voice has this like, it's not youthful enough to be like truly like the innocent like new guy at the company, but it's also not like, you know, the guy who's been there for like 40 years. It's like the guy who's been there like 8 10 years who's still really hip and cool and can make like circuit breakers like exciting. He was like, you're like the Apple computers of circuit breaker. Like your voice is like hip and cool, but still experienced, but not over experienced that you're ready to retire, but not so new that you sound like an idiot. And I was like, this is amazing feedback. Yes. It taught me so much. Like, so when I get cast on things, like I'll do stuff for Chevron or whatever, and it's an instructional video. So if you worked for Chevron and you went to figure out how to do something, you would hear me explain it to you. Like, next, click on this. And after that, do this. And I'm like, yeah, they just want my my hip guy voice. So yeah, anyway, I don't know how we got to there, but that's...
Good spot.
That's the end. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much. Round of applause. Don't forget, hang out. David Matranga right outside the door. Thank you so much. Keep it going. You guys can do better than that.
Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, this is Michael Shanks, and you're watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. The fate of the universe may depend on it. And have fun and follow your fandom.